There's me, there's us. There's them. We live in Dorset. So that's me, that's her, that's them. And together we are the Bear Fam. Bear Fam. It's typical, the day I decide to do some vlogging is probably the windiest day. However, it is so beautiful. Couldn't resist catching up with you. How are you all? Here's a question for you. Why, when I put makeup on, do I end up looking like a bloke in drag? It's a question that's perpetually frustrated me. No matter what I do, no matter how I do it, I end up looking like a pants Monday. Hence why I look like I look today. Thought I'd put some slap on. Nah, it just doesn't work for me. I don't have a makeup sort of face. Oh, it's just beautiful. Everything coming back to life. The greenery, the warmth, just the smell of the air. Going out without a coat on. I count my lucky stars. Waving to the neighbours. Yeah, it's just beautiful. I think it's my favourite time of the year. Now, I've got a question for you. There's these beautiful flowers that grow in the meadow behind my house, and I don't know what they are, so I'm going to show you. Don't want to go down too far because I get stuck in the bog because it's still a bit messy. But here's some right here. I'm going to show you and you can tell me what they are. They're white. Little hint of pink to them. Little hint of pink. What do you reckon? And down there, look. Along with the dandelions, they're just having a ball. They're literally everywhere. They look like daisies. Beautiful, aren't they? If one of you kind people would just like to drop down in the comments what they are, I'd be very grateful. I'm sure there's something quite simple, quite normal, but they're beautiful, aren't they? Look at them. Just like little glints of snow or little sprinkles of diamond. Mr. Crow sitting watching me. No, it's just beautiful. So beautiful. Ooh, white feather. So, I think Roxy's been gone. That's Ellie's friend that died. Nearly 3 weeks now, I would think. As you can imagine, Ellie has her ups and downs. I think as the lady whose name is Glamour, she's one of our long-time Bear Fam, she put in the comments something that resonated. I'm guilty of probably not answering her either, but she put something along the lines of losing a best friend at any time is bad, but when they're full of life, and at Ellie's age, it must be excruciating. And it's affected me, and I'm an older woman. But at 17, to lose somebody that you thought you were going to make memories with for the rest of your life, and in the way she died, I think it's a collective of their age, the relationship they had, their similarities and having been wild girls recently. Yeah, it's just as I think she's coming to terms with it a little better, she shows me that she isn't. You know, she's still posting on social media literally every morning and every evening, sunrise, sunset, how much she misses her. And it's not just Ellie, you know. I showed you the balloon release like literally a couple of days after she passed, and there's a tree that in the middle of that path in the gardens where all the kids sort of gathered that day. Well, it's become a bit of a shrine, and it's now collectively referred to as Roxy's tree. And sadly they're all a bit of a wild bunch, so they drink and they smoke cannabis, and I guess they're probably quite loud and intimidating, but collectively it's been helping them all to gather there and talk and share memories. But the council have decided that it's inappropriate and it's not fair on everybody else. I can see both sides of this, don't get me wrong, and I think they're going to remove it, which I think is just going to be catastrophic for them all. I mean, it's under a month. I mean, give them a couple of months, you know, maybe at the beginning of the summer holidays when the grockles are likely to come. But it's a garden area down the side of a sort of a lane beside the train tracks, which is why it was chosen. And it's a non-area these days. It literally leads from a residential area to an industrial estate. So it's really a locals patch, and it's more used for dog walkers than much else, to be fair. I just think leave them alone, let them have their few weeks of mourning. You know, in a few months' time, if it's still like it, then maybe, but just let them. All they're doing is sitting around the tree. Yes, they're probably being a little loud, but send a youth worker down, or just give them some help. You know, we can all see that they're struggling, but what anyway, so that's that. What else is new in the world? Oh yeah, I was talking about grief, wasn't I? You can see all these beautiful flowers. Look how beautiful it looks, just a meadow. I love wildness. Just things growing as they should grow. And the greens this time of the year, aren't they fabulous? And all the trees jumping back into life. Oh, I just love it all. Sorry, it's really difficult to climb this hill with a lead in this hand, you in this hand, because I'm an old fart. Yeah, I mean, there is nowhere else for them. You know, she was cremated. They can't really go to the railway line where she died. I mean, this is the next best thing. It is right alongside the railway, which is why they chose it, I think. It's as close a public area as they could find to where she died. You know, it's silly little things. Ellie doesn't ever want to go on a train again, despite the fact it wasn't a train that killed her, it was the train line. It's all the little things, people. You know, it's the memories coming up on Snapchat. Well, it's grief. There's no point me trying to explain grief to you all. You've all experienced grief, I suspect. Comes in waves. Sometimes the water is just lapping the shore and is quite peaceful and quite content. And other times there's raging storms battering the shore and angry and all worked up. And that's grief, isn't it? It's either a mill pond or a raging torrent. I'm going to take a break a minute because my arm is killing. I will catch you at the top of the hill, or in a minute when my arm's stopped hurting. Further up the hill, had to pull my hair further back. It was blowing. I looked like a right chomp, but anything to stop my hair getting in my eyes. All the kids are coming out of school down the lane, and It's weird, you know, getting used to Ellie not being in school after all those years of stress and anxiety. I can't help but reflect how much easier, maybe, or better her school life would have been had we had the ADHD diagnosis earlier. It is quite frightening that our educators, the people that are closest to our young people for the longest, really they spend more time with our youngsters than we do at certain ages, that they don't recognise or put two and two together, if you excuse the analogy, to recognise these things. The fact that Ellie was a model pupil, and then all of a sudden, the rape fields. The rapeseed fields are bright yellow. That's another part of this year I love in this area. I'll show you, but I can't get too close with this lens. Beautiful. Right, what else do we have to discuss? Oh, the coronation. Do you know, I've paid so little attention to anything to do with the coronation. I just have not been in the frame of mind. 2 days after my birthday. I don't know why as a kid I always remember that important sort of national dates, like elections and things like that, always seem to be on or around my birthday. It's because of the May Day, first Monday in May thing. But as a kid, I hated it. And I had a real grudge against Margaret Thatcher because I blamed her, because it was it was normally her that was getting re-elected at the time. Oh dear. Things we remember from childhood. Look at this green and the blue sky and the fields and the doggies. Oh, good feeling. It would only be better if I could encourage Baby Bear to come out for a walk. Although, she decided to go and get her nails done 2 days ago. She wanted the purple that Roxy's coffin and the colour of the funeral. So she did that. She got the tips in that colour and then clear the other bit. She might be a photo around, I don't know. And then she's got on the ring finger, she's got an R in the purple. And when she did that, it's just, I was saying to you earlier, the little things just make you realise that it's nowhere near done, dusted yet. And she sits with the order of service from the funeral. She keeps watching the funeral back. So there's that. What else? There's not a lot else. Our lives are fairly... Oh yeah, I was talking about ADHD, wasn't I? That was it. I knew there was something I was talking about before the man on the bike interrupted me. You'd think that they'd recognise it in a child that had been perfectly well behaved, who was top set in everything, who was all right, and then developed after lockdown and her surgery, developed tics, which were well documented nationally as being an issue amongst youngsters. Sort of an anxiety, evidence of anxiety. Hers went further because of her surgery and the anxiety she had from that. And then, just from there, I mean, there were signs and symptoms earlier on. I was unaware, but when she was in year 4 or 5, even in primary school, she used to have these odd blank moments. Like, she'd get dizzy. I think I've talked about it before. And she'd, like, either fall on the floor, or she'd come to having fallen over because she'd sort of momentarily lost the plot. Some occasions she was on the floor screaming that the world was spinning. I mean, she ended up in hospital once because of it. But when we spoke to the psychiatrist, you know, years later, years and years, we're talking, so year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 7, 8 years later, oh, that's FND, functional neurological disorder. That's part of her ADHD. That's you know, yeah, that's that. So I'm like, so 7 years ago when she was... So when all the primary school teachers used to come to me and say they didn't understand why somebody as intelligent and capable as Ellie was constantly looking for attention and constantly looking for reassurance, and he's like, yeah, well, that's ADHD, you know, that's part and parcel. So it's like, they were things that I didn't even consider an issue at the time. I mean, the dizziness and that was, but they're all like little pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. And because she's now not working, and I just don't see her able to work for the time being until I'm not even putting a time frame on it. She's applying for PIP, but of course the form is lengthy and goes on and on and on. So I've helped her do most of it, but I've also, as a parent, got to do a statement of my observations. And I was thinking about what I was going to write, and you start to think of how far back you really have to go to try and actually nail what's gone on. So much has happened, and so many appointments, and so much medical intervention, but without any conclusion until this year. I mean, she had a paediatric consultant who blasted her with a raft of tests because of her fainty sort of issues. But he never once came to the conclusion that it might be ADHD or FND. Fair enough, he's not a psychiatrist, he's a paediatrician. But we tried to get into CAMS, and we had various appointments with them, but they continually told us that she didn't meet their threshold. It wasn't until she started coming into contact with the police on a regular basis and threatening to jump off bridges and cutting herself that CAMS decided they had the space for her. Now, I don't blame CAMS or the staff, I blame the budgets nationally for social care. Can't see whoever it is. Oh, beautiful song. But I just wonder why our educators aren't given more tips and tricks for spotting these things. Because there are various things that were considered odd or unusual about Ellie's behaviour. Nothing major, clearly, because nothing triggered anything substantial, but there were bits and bobs that could have been picked up. Even if all they'd said to me was, have you thought about, have a look at? Because it didn't enter my head. It really just... I just thought she was... What did I think she was? She's always been a bit of a drama queen, as in looking for attention. But I just assumed that was her character, you know, just an only child. She'd had a lot of attention from me. I just assumed that was part and parcel of the fact I'd spoilt her, to be fair. And that sometimes when she went to her dad's, she got a different style of parenting, and that it was just her way of rebelling. And she had a lot of physical illnesses. She was always complaining about hurting herself, falling off this, falling off that. And now, in retrospect, she talks about the fact she just wanted... She didn't know what was wrong, but she just knew that she needed some support. And that was the only way that she knew of getting any support. That was the only, and that's to be said with our society, isn't it? If you break your arm or your leg, people will visit you and wish you well and joke with you and help you along. Tell them that you're suffering with a mental breakdown, or you're suffering with your mental health, and you won't see a lot of them for dust, because people don't know how or what to do with it. I'm beginning to come to the conclusion that, it's something that we need to be looking at in schools. The education about it, the knowledge of how, meditation, or, it's all poo-pooed as hippie shit, or it was when I was young. And I'm going up onto a windy bit of the hill, so I'm probably going to lose the ability to communicate. I've suffered the same thing. There were a few friends that stuck with me, but there's still this embarrassment to say I struggle with my mental health. I'd far rather tell people I've got fibro, even though they can't see that either. But it's better than saying I've got PTSD and I'm a bit of a, I struggle with being in around people, I'm socially anxious, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. I'll tell you the other thing that's come to light and has made me question things is I've always been totally socially inept. When it comes to friendships, not I can talk to people, but I've struggled my whole life to make female friends, especially. Easier with men, because I guess I've just flirted my way to, not because I wanted to have sex with them, but just because that's the only way I knew to make friends with men. But women, no, I think I've had probably one or two in my whole life, 3, 4, and half of those would have been, I would count as being in school wise. So I just don't know what to say. They always sort of tell me that I'm very judgmental, and because of the way it makes me feel, i.e. useless and lonely and pathetic. Certainly always blamed it on the fact that Mum and I had a shit relationship. I've always just assumed that that's why I don't get on with women. Did you know that ADHD and that sort of thing is, like 50% hereditary? So I have to say I've been left wondering whether there's a little part of me that might be on the spectrum. Whether my social anxiety and my inability to socialise, I just can't do chit-chat, can't do parties, can't just be, can't do it. Sorry, it's really windy. Anyway, car's still here. Gradually nature is reclaiming it. The way it's all sort of started to, a couple of years you won't even see it. It'll be totally covered. Even this paint that was put on last year has shrunk and disappeared. Beautiful day, look. Beautiful day. Moo's up to. I've recorded like 3 or 4 vlogs in the last few weeks, but just haven't been able to bring myself to post them. What are you two fighting about? I didn't realise you were in. And I just haven't managed to post them because I just don't feel very confident about anything at the moment. Just having a real sort of anyway, hopefully I'll post this one and I might catch you again soon. This chap is a butter. Somebody else. Sorry. But is that just me? It's actually not. Anyway, I'm going to love and leave you because I've rambled on for long enough and you can't hear me anyway. It was lovely to see you. I'm sorry. It's just been one big moan. I'm trying to be mindful and see all the beauty in the world and the blossom. It's a bit of a struggle at the moment, but taking each day as it comes. We thank you for your support, all those lovely messages. Thank you so much. If I haven't replied, I apologise. And as I said before, come and join me on Words with Friends. I spent my whole life playing Words with Friends at the moment. It's just such a good distraction. It's keeping my brain agile, which is what I need. Because you can't hear me.